Hello everybody, I hope you're having a great day. Today I'm going to be using Deck the Palms by Pink & Main. So I'm using a new to me product. This is the Nuvo masking fluid. Normally I would just stamp out my own masks on some post-it note paper, but because this was a bigger image, I thought this would be perfect to try the masking fluid. Now I have learned a little bit along the way here. You want to make sure that you're pressing the bottle very lightly. It comes out quickly. I also found that I did get bubbles. So when you see me tapping here, I'm trying to get the bubbles out of the fluid. Now this stuff does also have a very strong odor. I can't quite place the smell, but it's almost a seafoody smell to me. And if you have this stuff, let me know in the comments below what you think it smells like. But I would suggest that if you don't like scents, this is not a good medium for you to use. But here I'm just showing you that I went ahead the night before and I created the same thing with the masking fluid on, I'm using Distress watercolor paper here. I haven't figured out what the magic amount of time yet is to let that dry, so I just let it dry overnight so that I'd be able to create this card in one sitting. Thought I was going to start off doing my ocean and then changed my mind here and I wanted to do the sand first. So you just saw there that I cut my own kind of stencil out of some 110-pound cardstock. And for the first layer here at the bottom, like I said, this is going to be the beach. So I'm using antique linen and vintage photo, my favorite sand color combination in Distress Oxides. I'm going to lift this up now and I'm going to cut the paper again so that I can create my ocean. So I'm just adhering the paper down with some micropore tape. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. So here's where I'm cutting out where I want my ocean to be. I wanted it so that there was only a little bit of ocean and the tops of the palm trees would be in the sky. So for the ocean, I'm using tumbled glass and broken china. So I'm starting with the lightest color, the tumbled glass. And I do have to say the oxides blend beautifully over the masking fluid once it's dried. So that was fun to play with. Now I'm going to work on the sky. And I was sort of going for a Christmas Eve look. So kind of sunset, getting on to nighttime, waiting for Santa to come and fill the stockings. So I'm going to use 4 Distress Oxides for the sky. I'm using Cracked Pistachio here, closest to the ocean. I wanted to have it so like the ocean's almost glowing a little bit of light. I'm going to bring in my Lucky Clover next for a dark green. And the sheet that you see at the back is just a laminated piece of cardstock. I talk about this in a number of my videos. I find it super affordable and really easy to blend on and to clean up. Now to give it this nighttime look, I'm bringing in the black soot right at the top. So this is my first layer. Now I'm going to go back down and put on my second layer. And that is the faded jeans, I believe, that I'm using. Yeah. And then back in with the Lucky Clover. And I'm sort of pushing up here into the faded jeans with the Lucky Clover just to try to get that smooth blend line. And then finish off with the Cracked Pistachio. So once I get these put off to the sides, I will peel this up. Take that stencil off and then you can see how the scene has been created. Now to take away the masking fluid, I'm using my adhesive remover, and I found that this was really good to get it started, and then I just ended up using my finger. Now right here in the middle of the palm tree, I do find that some of the paper lifted a bit, and you can see that when I start coloring the image, or at least I notice it. I don't think too many other people would, but you do want to be careful as you're taking off the mask here, but it just peels off and it just leaves like a rubbery kind of glue feeling once it's off. So I wanted to add some stars, and I also wanted to add some ocean waves to my scene here. So I'm using some white gouache. Now, this is something that Christina Warner uses, and I just picked one up off of Amazon. I will link to the one that I purchased below. I have no idea the difference in the brands. I just picked this one up because I felt like it was affordable out of my options. So I will link that and everything else I use in the description box below in case you want a closer look at the products I've used. So I'm just going over the ocean waves here a couple times just so they're nice and bright white. And then I'm going to, in a moment, I'm going to add some stars to the night sky. First though, I'm going to start coloring the image. I wanted to see if this was going to pan out the way I had expected before I started adding the details to the finished card, including the stars in the sky. So I'm using this Daniel Smith watercolor dot card. This is the holiday palette. Now this is from Simon Says Stamp, and I bought this a couple years ago, and it was $1.99. I went to see if they still had it before I did this voiceover, and they do, and they now charge $4.99 for the exact same product. So if you have this in your stash, then I would recommend using it. And if you want to try some really high quality watercolor paints, then I think the $5 is worth the price as well. Now, I would consider myself to be a beginner with these high quality watercolors, so definitely don't look for me for technique here in this video. I'm just sort of painting and having fun. So I'm using the sap green here for the palm trees, and this is where you're going to start to see right here where I feel like the paper pilled up a little bit when I took off the mask. I do find when I go with the second layer of green that it will kind of mute itself out. And sorry, Piper's playing on a scratching post in the background. So if you can hear her, that's what she's doing. I always make the mistake of doing these voiceovers before I feed them dinner, and it means that they're just trying to get my attention. Anyhow, back to the card. So I'm just going in using the next green color. This is a darker green color, so I'm using this where the palm leaves are meeting, and then just adding some depth and dimension here with the second color. And with the palm tree leaves, I did add water before I started the coloring, and that helped with moving around the color a bit more. So I didn't know what color I wanted to do the ribbon, or the, I don't know what you would call that, the tie that's hanging the stockings to the trees. So I thought I would do it in a blue just so that I wasn't adding another color to the card. So I'm starting with this cobalt teal blue, but I found that it blended too much with the ocean water. So then I'm using the cobalt turquoise to darken that up a little, and I do really like that color. It gives a little bit more of a definition from the water. So now that the trunk of the palm tree has dried, I am going to come back in with both the two brown colors that I used just to darken that up a little bit. Well, the one color is actually a yellow, but I was hoping that would give me like a light sandy brown color. So I did heat that with my heat tool, and now I'm just adding on another new to me product, which is some large size double-sided tape, and I did pick this up on Amazon as well, and I love this stuff, but it is sticky. So I knew that when I was adding this to my card base, I had one chance to get it right. Thank goodness I was able to get it down fairly straight. I just had to trim up the card base a little bit, And here's where I'm just going to bring those masks back, and I'm going to add some of that white gouache that was already on my stamp block as stars. So I was going for very light splatters, and as you can see, a piece of, well, a little bit of the paint actually dropped on to my card panel, so I just attempted to fix that by sopping it up with a paper towel and then went back over with my Distress Oxide ink. And here I'm lightly trying to get some stars in the sky. Some of those bigger dots are a lot bigger than I would have liked, but it is what it is. It's a handmade card. I don't think anybody's going to be judging the size of my splatters. So now I'm going to add on the sentiment. I put a lot of my embossing buddy on that one side because I didn't want it to stick to the Distress Oxide inks. And I'm using my Versamark ink here, and I'm going to emboss that with white detail embossing powder. So I'm going to heat that up, and I like the way the white of the sentiment picks up on the white in the ocean. To finish off the card, I'm going to add some red stickles on the Christmas lights. I didn't worry about going around the Christmas lights when I was watercoloring the image because I knew that I was going to do this, and it's so much easier than trying to go around those tiny little light bulbs. So I'm going to do green stickles as well. So the Christmas lights are red and green. If I had a blue, I might have added a blue in, but I like the way it looked with the red and green. This gives it some nice shine and also adds a little bit of dimension to this one layer card, given I'm not going to do anything to this. And there goes Piper again. So to finish off the card, I'm adding some Simply White Nouveau here. And these are the drops that will add some dimension as well. I wasn't able to get it into the tiny little spots, so I just added some onto, this is just some of the release paper from the double-sided tape. And I'm just going to paint it on with my paintbrush in those really tiny spots. And I'm going to go back and add it to where the stockings are hanging on the line as well. And that's the card today. I hope you've enjoyed. I will see you soon in the next video. Bye!